Welcome to the Business of Money. I'm Zach Anderson Pettit, and today's story is all about Palantir. Palantir just published a 22-point manifesto. That honestly is the headline. That should be enough to draw your attention at this point. A private defense company focused specifically on the next iteration of mass destruction in the post-nuclear era, quote unquote, published a manifesto. Cockles should be raised. Raise thine cockles. Why am I covering this? What's the fintech angle? Two things. Palantir has a financial services business. They work with banks, especially the largest ones, Société Générale Française, Unicredit, Citigroup, Axos Bank, Better.com, New York, City Wealth as well. They're now pushing into smaller institutions. I'm close with a community bank here in Kansas City that's just over $1 billion in assets that's using Palantir for multiple use cases. So it's touching financial services. Second reason, numbies. Apparently there's more interest in the world of technology broadly than just fintech. And I'm a whore for views, and this feels very clickable. So if you're already here, gotcha. All right, let's get into it. Context. Why is a company that describes themselves as an AI-powered automation engine for any decision putting out a manifesto? Let's start there. To understand, though, and to understand Palantir, one must first understand the unique entity, the spirit animal that is Alex Karp, the CEO. Pictured here, specifically not talking about Fight Club. Mr. Karp is known for being an energetic leader. Very energetic. Potentially on some supplements for the energy, based on some of the interviews and prognostication on Twitter afterwards. If you have seen them, you're aware that he believes he is the man, and Palantir has no competition. These are the bedrocks of him, which you need that confidence to get to a certain level in life, I think, and homie's got it. This manifesto, though, stemmed from his book, The Technological Republic, and that's why you need to understand him. The book was not necessarily received with critical acclaim. If I were to grab one of my favorite snippets about the book, a review from Mark O'Connell of the New York Review of Books, I believe you'd enjoy it. So let's go there. I found myself increasingly preoccupied by a single question. Mr. O'Connell said, why did Alex Karp want to write this thing in the first place? I suspect that his reasons are at least partly related to the Silicon Valley cult of the tech founder's philosopher king, and have to do with Karp's desire to be viewed not just as a businessman, but also as a public intellectual. This book exists, in other words, in order for Karp to have written a book. This book is filled with sort of sanctimonious guff. Mr. O'Connell, I commend you on your use of sanctimonious guff. The manifesto is really a distillation of the ideology. It's a distillation of sanctimonious guff. It's not new. It's marketing for Palantir in this case, but also for Alex Karp and how he thinks about the world. This is a very founder-driven company. If you think Tesla and Elon, you think, well, I guess with Palantir, you think a little bit more about Peter Thiel because he's more famous. But Alex Karp very much is the spirit animal of this company. He is the culture of this company. So, like I said, it's marketing, it's positioning layer, and it stems from the book. Why? They're moving away from this mass market and clearly trying to lean all the way into these friendships with nation states, especially on the Western Front. One of the takes that you see a lot on Twitter right now is that this manifesto was designed specifically to solidify Palantir as the AI company of the West. Okay, so what's actually inside this thing? Let's speed run it together. 1. Silicon Valley owes a moral debt to the country that made its rise possible. The engineering elite of Silicon Valley has an affirmative obligation to participate in the defense of our nation. And you can find open roles on our job board. Okay, that one feels a little self-serving. We must rebel against the tyranny of the apps. Is the iPhone our greatest creative, if not crowning achievement as a civilization? The object has changed our lives, but it may also now be limiting and constraining our sense of the possible. Just to remind you, Palantir, you're building an automated decisioning platform. Relax. It's cool technology, but relax. You're acting like working at Palantir is like working at Doctors Without Borders or something like that. You're not saving the world. Maybe not making it that much better. I don't know. We're not going to go there, but you're not saving the world. Free email is not enough. This is number 3. Free email is not enough. The decadence of a culture or civilization, and indeed its ruling class, will be forgiven. Will be forgiven only if that culture is capable of delivering economic growth and security for the public. Kind of just feels true, but also just feels like you're telling Google engineers that playing ping pong between commits that they're just silly geese. And my avant-garde argument is that we're all silly geese. So I don't really know who that is driving towards. 4, the limits of soft power, of soaring rhetoric alone, have been exposed. The ability of free and democratic societies to prevail requires something more than moral appeal. It requires hard power. And hard power in this century will be built on software. On this one, I kind of just hear Biden saying, come on, soft power isn't dead. Come on. We got soft power come on. I don't know. This one scares me. It feels like they're being a little gleeful about the existing state of constant war that we're living in, but we'll see how that shakes out as we keep going through. 5, the question is not whether AI weapons will be built. It is who will build them and for what purpose. That's true. That's true. We have to fight fire with fire, AI with AI. That's just true. 6, national service should be a universal duty. We're getting sanctimonious. 6, national service should be a universal duty. We should, as a society, this is where it gets weird. We should, as a society, seriously consider moving away from an all-volunteer force and only fight, get this, only fight the next war if everyone shares in the risk and the cost. First off, feels wildly utopian. I guess you're starting to see the Silicon Valley come across in this, but it also feels like a little bit of a narrative violation. Where all over Twitter, LinkedIn, the Twitterati are all having this conversation about the $1 billion one-person company. And we're talking now about getting more people involved in this specific defense of the nation, civil servant, whatever, but getting more people involved in the future of warfare. Shouldn't the future of warfare also have less humans involved? I guess if you're making the plea to have more engineers, I feel like Palantir's trying to have 12 people work at the Pentagon and AI decisioning happen around the rest of it. So this kind of like call to arms of humans, it feels weird. 7, if a U.S. Marine asks for a better rifle, we should build it. And the same goes for software. Okay, I've talked to a lot of Marines in my time, and I have yet to hear one of them ask for a piece of software. Maybe a VPN in Texas, but that's about it. 8, public servants need not be our priests. Any business that compensated its employees in the way that the federal government compensates public servants would struggle to survive. That feels like a statement and then a shift over 3 pages and another statement. It's weird how those two things go together. And it's also this, like, on one hand, we should have mandatory conscription and we should all be doing public service. And on the other hand, don't listen to them fools. I don't know. But separately, I agree completely on we need to rethink how to compensate civil servants. So, 9, we should show far more grace towards those who have subjected themselves to public life. All right. I'm on a roller coaster here. Okay, so we're not priests, and we do not look at them as priests, but show them more grace. Okay, got it. Fair, whatever. All right, 10. The psychologicalization, it's as spelled in here, psychologization, which I don't know if that's a word, but I'm going with it, of modern politics is leading us astray. Hard to disagree with that one. Look at True Social. 11. Our society has grown too eager to hasten and is often gleeful at the demise of its enemies. The vanquishing of an opponent is a momentous pause. There is a moment to pause, not rejoice. That is bullshit. Schadenfreude is an American pastime. War movies, news, everything about our society would need to shift for that to even be a perspective. And also, are you Buddha? Like, what's going on? This is a very weird thing to have come from Palantir. 12. The atomic age is ending. I kind of referred to this a little earlier, but it's scary. And I don't know. Is it scary or is it not scary? That's a debate for another day. The atomic age is ending. One age of deterrence, the atomic age, is ending. And a new era of deterrence built on AI is set to begin. That scares the shit out of me. That's about all I got. 13. No other country in the history of the world has advanced progressive values more than this one. This one being the U.S. of A. The United States is far from perfect, they say. But it is easy to forget how much more opportunity exists. I agree with this part. But it's easy to forget how much more opportunity exists in this country for those who are not hereditary elites than in any other nation on the planet. Weird juxtaposition where I'm agreeing with half of things and not the other half, and they don't really flow together. But I do agree on the opportunity piece. USA. But the no other country having push, I guess I agree with that too. It's just hard to look back on our history and feel like that's an objective truth. But I agree. I don't know. But before we get all gun-ho, 14, American power has made possible an extraordinarily long peace. Did you know that? I didn't know that we had peace. Apparently we've had peace. Too many have forgotten or perhaps taken for granted that nearly a century of some version, this is where we get into it, of some version of peace has prevailed in the world without a great power military conflict. Okay, so some version of peace. Okay, America's made possible an extraordinarily long peace. Maybe American power has made possible an extraordinarily long version of peace is a better way to put that. But whatever. At least 3 generations, billions of people and their children, and now grandchildren, have never known a world war. Fact. Our new definition of peace apparently is just not having a world war, which I feel like maybe we need to adjust our barometer here a little bit. But some masterful moving of the goalposts. I respect it in terms of messaging. Moving on. 15. The post-war neutering of 15. The post-war neutering of Germany and Japan must be undone. Not touching that one. 16. We should applaud those who attempt to build where the market has failed. I agree completely. This comes back to their whole we don't have competition thing. But I think they're saying nobody's even tried. I don't know. Anyway, this is my argument for supervisory technology inside of fintech financial services. The least sexy space, probably. But our government needs software vendors too, if Palantir's taught us anything. 17. Silicon Valley must play a role in addressing violent crime. Tell me you live in SF and have to walk to work without telling me you live in SF and have to walk to work. 18. The ruthless exposure of the private lives of public figures drives far too much talent away from government service. I mean, all right, but like, listen, Elon is likely the smartest person on the planet, but as soon as he started dancing on the stage at Trump rallies, Doge was done. That's just life in America. You can be a nerd, but you can't be a dweeb. You gotta straddle the line. You can't go all the way over it and have the bottom of your belly laying out on CNN while you're doing a little jig. Only Trump can get away with that. 19. The caution in public life that we unwittingly encourage is corrosive. Those who say nothing wrong often say nothing much at all. I'm saying a lot of wrong things. Here we go. Okay, reviewing that a little bit though. Those who say nothing wrong often say nothing much at all. This just feels like tell that to Lauren Boebert. The caution in public life is unwittingly encourages corrosive. Lauren. 20. The pervasive intolerance of religious belief in certain circles must be resisted. I feel like they snuck this one past Peter Thiel's atheist PR team. The pervasive intolerance of religious belief in certain circles must be resisted. That or they're just like subtweeting at Peter Thiel, which is even more entertaining. 21. Some cultures have produced vital advances. Others remain dysfunctional and regressive. That's the world. All cultures are now equal. Criticism and value judgment are forbidden. All right, bro, whatever. 22. We must resist the shallow temptation of a vacant and hollow pluralism. We in America, more broadly, the West, have for the past century resisted defining national cultures in the name of inclusivity. But inclusion into what, they ask. This feels like a weird veiled kind of call to be more of a Christian nation right after kind of subtweeting at Peter Thiel's atheist PR team. I don't know. My overall take here at a 50,000 foot view is I'm a bit confused. I wonder what the meeting was like when they were putting this together. Like what what did they think the world was going to take out of this is one of my big questions. What were they hoping was going to happen? Because it seems like a lot of people almost trying to read parables and read tea leaves out of this thing, which is really bizarre to me. Anyway, tell me what I missed. Jump in the comments. I'm sure there's a ton. I'd love to hear what you think. I love you all, and I will see you next time.